Hello, and welcome to Build Your AI Agent Deep Research Edition. I am really excited to be bringing to you most days a new AI agent, and this is one of my favorites. It has saved me hours and hours of time, and it's so simple. So I want to go ahead and showcase how it works and describe when it would be useful to you and show you a couple of recent deep research projects that I worked on that have been, it's truly amazing. It is saving hours and hours a week. But I'm going to go ahead and mention that in the comments, there's a link if you want to actually go see these agents. I'll give you a demo, but if you want to try it afterwards, you can feel free to do that. The other option is there's a QR code on the screen now, and you can just use that. I'll take you there as well. So I am going to share my screen here and give you a little behind the scenes on how I use these deep research. And this is my favorite one so far. And it is the perfect thing to use for times where you may want to research a company. You may want to do deep research into a board or an individual. It may be an industry overview. I've recently helped a client use it to take off of her plate and her team's plate about 15 hours a week of work that they were doing prepping for meetings. So it's a great tool. So I'm going to show you just the back end of my system. And I'll go through a number of these for you. There's different categories. And right now you can actually just add a Chrome edition and use many of these are free. The one I'm going to show you today is a paid feature. It is only a $15 a month, and it runs $2 to $5. I've actually never hit $5 for the report itself, but it is saving me hundreds of dollars for research that I'm either doing myself or paying for different projects. But I'll show you here, this deep research is what we're going to be using today. And you can also research people. You can generate a podcast, which I'll show you. So for those of you who need to do the research, but it's hard to, get in and read, you can actually create a podcast that will give you the highlights of what the research is saying. And I just listen to that. Sometimes when I'm making, dinner or doing other things, I'll listen to it and just sort of get a flavor for it and then do a deep dive when I am ready. So I am going to I'll walk you through the process, but I'm going to go ahead and shift over and actually show you a couple of recent ones that I did, because it does take about 10 minutes. And I'll show you the one that I did recently for the legal profession. I have a new client, and I am helping her with some AI tools for her small law firm. She's very busy. She has a lot of client work, but is aware that it's important to start embracing some of the AI solutions. And they're getting called on by lots of different vendors. So we've been looking at a couple of specific things that have, a high ROI. I don't have a legal background. And so I always like to prepare a bit more for the industry. And I wanted to have the opportunity to just kind of have a dive into what is happening with AI specific to the legal industry. So this is a report that is generated by this deep research tool. And it creates about a 5,000 word report that's really well organized. It has some key takeaways. And these are really interesting pieces of information. But what happens, so here you have the AI adoption in legal practices has nearly tripled from 11% in 23 to 30% in 24, and 53% now integrating generative AI into workflows. So this kind of information was really important to me as I was meeting with her to talk about why this was important to do sooner rather than later from a competitive standpoint, and how much impact it was going to have on her, billable hours and some priorities that she had. So I'm going to walk you through this. I'll actually put the link to this report so you can see the actual report. But you can see here, this is one that I generated the podcast as part of my research. So there is it's about 10 minutes or so, AI in family law. And it's just a podcast that is built off of this research. So you can see here, it's just really well organized. Current AI tools for small law firms, AI for business development. That was one of the things that I customized. I was really interested in what might be more specific to AI. And it's client acquisition strategies, marketing automation, client relationship management. There's AI for trial and deposition preparation. That was another area that in my earlier meetings with her. So it was a deep dive into how people are using, what kind of tools are out there, case outcome predictions, implementing consideration for family law firms. And it just does this huge deep dive into data security, client confidentiality. There are some case studies on successful AI, emerging trends. So you can imagine, any of you that are in business and development and sales, this could really help you customize your presentations. This can be an incredible resource to send after the fact. So this is something that I was able to share, and it backs up what I was saying in my conversations trying to earn her business. So it, goes through a lot of emerging trends, recommendations, what strategic approaches are there, tools and vendors. So this was great to be able to do some background research, implementation best practices, risk mitigation, conclusions, and most importantly, and this is something that when you're Googling or trying to piece together resources, it can be very difficult. So you end up with this entire report. So again, kind of ballpark 5,000 words. And then you receive all of the detailed resources and where to go to find them. So everything is proven. There's, just incredible additional, you can link directly to specific reports. So this is a great one, how firms use AI financial remote work technology in a 2025 legal industry report. So you can just go down a rabbit hole. Excuse me. Little allergies in town. So you can really go, down the rabbit hole in information. It is just an incredible tool. So again, in the past, I would have spent, a number of hours doing research, but it never would have come close to having the type of information, access to reports that I probably would never have found. I recall buying a report for about $800 that was on the the HMO model for dogs and pets. And I was looking to move from human insurance business into the pet insurance. And I bought a research project for about $800 as part of my interview process. I really wanted to have a deep understanding, and it wasn't as even close to as good as this is. So I'm going to show you just one more example. And this is, I am doing a project regarding gratitude and how companies and individuals can have a lot of ROI on gratitude as a business strategy. So again, it gives you this incredible report and has, some statistics and some information. So as I'm meeting with this team and we're talking about this project that we're doing, it is fantastic to be able to come away and say that there's 250% ROI. and modest investments of 1%. So there's just these really good statistics and key takeaways. And again, this overview here, in this case, there's also a podcast. So I have a 10-minute podcast that I can just listen to and get the essence of this information. The business case for gratitude, the psychology ROI, comparing ROI across business context, implementing gratitude for sales enhancement, LinkedIn specific gratitude strategies. So this was very interesting to me because in this case, we are doing some work on LinkedIn for it. And the professional nature of LinkedIn makes it an ideal environment for authentic gratitude that builds trust and credibility. There is retention-focused gratitude programs, practical implementation frameworks, measuring and optimizing gratitude ROI. So the kinds of metrics that you can use, case studies and success stories. So it just goes on, special applications and considerations, conclusion, action plan, and sources. So, this 90-day implementation roadmap, that was really an interesting idea of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And again, all of this can be shared. You can pull out pieces and it's all of the resources. So it's very, very fascinating. And I have found it to make such a huge difference in the conversations that I'm having, that I can prepare and really come to the table with ideas and strategies and things that I might not have considered because I may not know that person's business very well yet. And this gives me great insight. And you can see you can get you can niche down as much as you want. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the process. Now, again, these deep research reports take about 10 minutes. So I'm going to show you the front end of the process, but I wanted to share these examples with you. Okay, so in order to run the deep research, all you have to do is, again, if you use either the QR code or the link, you can go ahead and download the Chrome extensions, and that's one way to use it, or you can sign up for a free or pro version. And again, it's only $15. The ROI is just a no-brainer. You can go ahead and play around with it and just try some of them. This will give you a really good idea of how customizing agents for you and using it for your specific role or interest just has so much power. But what you're going to do is you're going to run the deep research AI agent, and it is going to ask you about what you want to run your deep research or your new research about. And again, it's in-depth, sourced research reports, about 5,000 words, and you're going to use a prompt on the front end. It will ask you some clarifying questions, but you can play with this and really make it as interesting as you want. So let's say you want to, a project I'm about to do is I want to do deep research on a company called Dogtopia, and I want to research the background, and you can just as many details as possible, the leadership team. I'm preparing for a presentation. Okay, and then it will ask you, but you can go as deep as you want. You can start out, more broadly. You can narrow it down. You could find some of the information that it comes with initially, might, refine that down for you. You can include a 10-minute podcast about the report or not. And I loved that, to just use it as a way to listen and learn. And it's going to just get started. So this agent is going to work on your behalf. And this is actually something that you can build into a bigger AI agent workflow. If there's something that you do on a repetitive basis, you can actually design this. And if you have something in particular that you're curious about, please feel free to reach out and I can brainstorm this with you. But it'll just start building your research plan. So based on what you've asked and as it starts to go along, it's going to create a really specific research plan for you. You can notify when finished, so you can just let it run and you can move on to the next thing you're working on, and it will send you an email when it's done, which is very interesting. So again, this is sometimes it's been just on fun things. So in this case, it's wanting to clarify who is the intended audience for your presentation on Dogtopia. So in this case, I'm going to say it's industry conference attendees because I'm giving a presentation on AI and how AI can impact this industry. And Dogtopia is actually right down the street from me here. And they have a location at the Oregon coast where we have a beach home. So in this case, what specific aspect of Dogtopia are you most interested in, or would you like emphasis in the presentation? So their operations and model, the leadership and company background, market positions, community involvement, or other. And you can just keep refining away, but I'm going to say their leadership and company background in this case. And it will, again, it's just going to keep as it goes. If it needs clarification, it's going to ask you for clarification. But again, on the front end, you can give it as many details as you'd like. And I've found it to be oh, here you go. So what's your familiarity with the pet care industry? So this is perfect because if you're somebody that has a lot of expertise, you do not need any of that foundational information versus if you have limited knowledge. So I'm going to say I have some knowledge. Have you or someone used Octopia services before? Yes, personally, I have shopped there. Are you looking to focus on a specific area? In this case, I'm going to say specific state. I am looking to do some presenting to their leadership team here locally. So again, it is just going to go to town. So this is like having a research team at your beck and call 24/7, and they are just going out there and finding out all kinds of information. So hopefully this gives you a really good feel for what deep research can do and opens your mind to all of the times that you think, I need a deeper dive on something or someone, but maybe I don't have time. It's not worth the time. Or situations where people have, virtual assistants right now that are doing this kind of work. And if you set up AI agents correctly, they can actually take over a lot of tasks that you might be sharing with somebody else, and that it may be inconsistent in terms of the quality of the feedback that you get or the timeliness of it. So I have found, honestly, this to be so much better than things that I have created in the past, even when I have just poured hours and hours or days and days, thinking back to times where I have been giving, big presentations for, sales, earning larger accounts. It could be any account, but just for me and my background, we just poured so many hours into putting together proposals. And it was difficult to give the kinds of nuanced insight, something that really helped us stand out because we didn't have the access and the workload was pretty demanding. And this could have made all the difference. I think for many people, it's also a competitive imperative to start playing with these tools because other companies are, and it's happening quickly. And what I've found is the best way to do it is to just kind of get in there and try things. And Mind Studio is a great place to do that because there's so many of these that they have built and their investors actually fund them. So they're free to use. Some, again, are paid. This one is well worth it, in my opinion. And if you are interested in seeing their other AI agents, please comment or send me a note. Let me know which one you're interested in. I'd be happy to do another one of these overviews. Or if you have a specific curiosity about your own role or your own business, I would be so happy to just sit down and do some brainstorming with you. It's a lot of fun. But I hope that this gives you a good feel for what it is, how it works. You're going to see more and more deep research in the coming weeks as it starts expanding, since AI is making it so much more possible. So thank you again. And I will be back in the next couple of days with the next issue of Activate Your AI Agent. And we will